Hello out there, my name is Laolu Akode and you are on to Inside Sources, the Sunday edition. And here's my take for the day, titled A Memo to Wike Fubara and the Inspector General of Police. One undeniable duty of a leader is to lift people up. And ultimately, the success or failure of leadership is seen either in being able to pull your people up or bring them down. The point today is that all our elected and appointed leaders owe it to us to lift us up as a people. When that happens, we will all know it. But the truth is that as a people, we are still far away from a truly people-based democratic political process. Now, let us look at one of the confounding blockages to the emergence of a truly people-based political process, which is the assault, insult, and the absurdities of godfathers fighting their own godsons. The existence of godfathers has been negative in our experience lately, but it doesn't have to be so necessarily. In life, it is normal for someone to recommend another. But our experience is that these godfathers are for the most part selfish, overly dictatorial, and they lightly esteem public interest. Let us focus now on Rivers State for the moment. The immediate past governor, Barrister Nyesom Wike, is locking arms with his own self-appointed heir, to the extent that both of them will have to convince us that they are not part of some of the violence that we have seen in the state lately. Look at the destruction of public buildings and the loss of life that we have seen in Rivers State this past week. Who does that? Why is that okay? It is sad that Mr. Wike, our dear Mr. Project, is not cool, calm, and collected as a political gladiator. Fubara himself, that's the governor, is positioning himself as a real public brawler. So let us tell them both that neither of them is helping to lift up the people of Rivers State in these circumstances. Remember, leaders either pull their people up or bring them down. Wike should surrender practically and accept that he is no longer the governor of Rivers State. And the people should confront him with what he said in similar circumstances in the past.
What do I gain? What do I gain as a person if I destroy my state? Of what benefit is it to me? This is the state I owe everything to. So I needed that piece. I need that development that state. And you cannot. But each time you go out, you cast suspicion on the state, you say this about the state, you bring down the state. No, what does he achieve? That you wake up, you go on television to bring down your state. What does he achieve?
Wike should take his own advice. Then Governor Fubara should become a bit more reconciliatory and rally the people together in the different arms of the state government so that service delivery can be enhanced in the state. There are many people who will swear that Governor Fubara is indeed doing some very great work already in taking care of the people in the state, but he needs to make peace with Wike. Now, the Nigerian police. Our police should stop giving us the impression that they are doing Wike's bidding. Hopefully they are not. But the impression is very strong. How can the police accept a ruling that says that they should not perform their constitutional duty? Where is such done? If there is a proper ruling, then a neutral police force determined to serve the people will have appealed such an order. Then how come that the burning of the local government offices took place right after the police left the buildings? Mr. Inspector General of Police, why? Finally, the only reason the federal government is tolerating all the excesses of Wike is because the former governor of Rivers State is the ruling party's potent tool to completely neutralize the main opposition party. PDP should wake up and clean its own house. We need a viral opposition. It is good for democracy. It is good for a people-oriented republic. Our leaders must be told that if they are not seen to be lifting people up, then what they are doing is pulling people down. Godfathers and godsons must hear this. It is the fact that many of our leaders are likely driven by personal aggrandizement to the detriment of the public interest. That's just the truth. Otherwise, why aren't we selecting successors in a democratic and transparent ways in the parties? If the godson saw the godfather govern for his or our own personal interest, not for the people, the godson will play smart and play along while the godfather is in charge, waiting for his own turn to take his own bite. This is what is happening in Rivers State today and in several other cases here in our country. And it is a shame. It should stop. And let's tell Wike that a dog can't be so wide that it will guard 2 houses all at once. Focus on your job here in the FCT. Mr. Wike, you can do a lot more there. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, as we continue our conversation on the future of Nigeria, I have an eminent scholar, an elder statesman, a virologist of note. I mean, clearly Nigeria's leading virologist, who was also a former vice chancellor. Many things, and we're going to be getting to it. I'd like to welcome to Inside Sources, Professor Oyewale Tomori. Prof.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome to Inside Sources.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Well, just before we started the shows, some of people in the studio are saying, Prof is now, an elder statesman. I hope that there is a replacement, for him. And people said that, well, maybe the people you train have actually left the country. So let's start from there. How much worry do you have on the impact of brain drain? Let's start from the academic. I mean, you're an academic. How much impact, how much worry do you have regarding the problem of brain drain?
I'm very worried. And I keep getting more worried every day because we don't seem to be doing anything about it. Go to our universities now, you find the situation is really, really sad. The type of time when we were there, the group of people, the young people and the elderly people were working together, all that is gone. Most of our young people are gone. I was just saying today that I had a meeting with a group of people early in January. We had this repeat of that meeting in September, and I found out the new set of people were there organizing that meeting. And I asked, where are the rest? They've all gone. Young, talented people. They've left, and they are leaving. And that's where I said, I'm worried, and I'm more worried every day, because we don't seem to be doing anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you said this, because I remember in December last year, I posed this same question of brain drain to former President Ibrahim Babangida. And he said to me that, just what you said also, that that's one problem that we've not really dealt with,
exactly,
with the kind of way that we normally deal with stuff. And it was proposing then that we needed to have some kind of a commission, now. So I want to ask you, how do you think we should begin to even approach solving this problem?
I think, first of all, we have to believe and accept that it's an emergency for the country. It's been going on for a long time. And then we have different disparate comments from people in government. Oh, we have too many doctors. Oh, we're supplying people to the world. You don't even have enough to take care of your problem. You're saying you're supplying to the world. I think we in Nigeria must realize that we have a major problem in our hand. And just like you suggested that the former president talked about the commission, I think it's worth that, to look into all the ramifications. Why are people leaving? The thing is that in the same environment we're training good people, but it is, capacity building is not the story. Capacity retention is even more important. Because then you have to create the enabling environment for who you have trained to stay. Otherwise, it's wasted life, wasted resources, wasted time. So they have to go out and look for places. A brain that is not nurtured will drain away to go and find where it can be nurtured. And that's what is happening. And we regard this as a national emergency. We're never ever going to find a solution to it.
It's interesting that you call it an emergency because honestly, that is what it is, except that we've not averted our minds to it. A lot of the people that are talented, clearly see a better prospect,
of course,
outside. And in trying to treat it as an emergency, I'm thinking alongside what you just said. Would that be a problem for education ministry or health, or would it have to involve a whole government approach?
It is a national problem. It's a ramification from education. I mean, when you train the people, he has to go out to the environment.
Right.
If the environment is not the enabling environment, he goes away. So every aspect of our life, it affects everything.
It does.
From the decision. So it's not just education matter alone. It is the fact that, when you finish training these people, where does he go? He doesn't find a job. If he gets a job, does he get satisfaction? A lot of people are not living because of, the money is part of it. But when you train somebody to be a doctor, and he ends up being a washerman or laundry something, what is all that about? These are some of the things you are getting. When you can't find any in the way that is your vocation. That way you put your life in, your livelihood, everything.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you finish with it, and then you are roaming the street. So it affects everything down the line. So it's a national thing. Everybody should be involved.
And I also think, Prof, that it's also a problem that doesn't seem to have, there's no silver bullet here. Because, I don't think the solution to it is obvious or easy. Do you think?
The only way, you are correct, but that's the reason why we all need to come together and find out the entire thing. So, like most diseases that we talk, there's no silver bullet. Of course, we're going to talk about vaccines today, and there's no silver bullet. There's so many factors involved. Therefore, each factor must be addressed. And together in a cohesive way, in a united way, so that it's not just you solving the problem of education and then not solving the problem of job employment.
Right.
All have to go together.
Yeah. So it's really, it's the kind of emergency that actually just tells us that, we haven't gotten quite a few things right, or we've gotten quite a few things wrong.
Yeah. Gotten most things wrong. Yeah, I'm sorry to say.
Which takes us to the next thing. So if you look at where we are today as a country, like I said, that you are another statesman. You are already looking at 80, although you're not looking
80 like is looking at me.
When I saw you, you are you're walking with so much vigor and vibrancy. There are people who know that you're already 78. So you have quite a lot of experience of what has happened in this country. So I wanted to ask you, so where do you think we're headed for? Based on our direction today, where we are today, where do you think we're headed for?
If we don't take time and we don't take a turn around and look at what direction, I think we're heading for an abyss in which the country, every aspect of the country is affected. It's not just education, it's not just morals, everything is affected. And if we don't put a stop to it, I can't imagine what kind of country we'll be going into. As it is enough problem. It's enough disaster. As far as I'm concerned, this is not what we should be. Like you said, people who have been in Nigeria when Nigeria was Nigeria, we know what we're talking about. I was just discussing with how, as a 11-year-old boy, I left my town from Elisha and was going to Ughelli miles away. Nobody followed me.
Wow.
We just did taxi system, the transport system, the Ames transport service would pick up in Lagos at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock is in Ibadan, 12 is in Elisha. Your parents take you to the Ames station and hand you over to the driver. We used to sleep in Benin overnight before we continued to Ughelli. Nobody, but safety was there. The parents trusted the drivers. One interesting thing, the food, we used to stop in a place called Agbanikaka to have our dinner.
Okay, in what state did that be?
That was where it's now in Delta. It must be, no, it's not in Delta, it's near Edo. It's very close to Sobe, which is on the way to Benin. So Agbanikaka is the place. Okay. I'm sure it's lost glory now. But that's where we used to stay to eat our food and listen.
Wow.
But the interesting thing about that was that the money that they used to give us for dinner was given to the driver.
Oh, wow.
He paid for our food when we went there. Wow. On his way back, he brings it back to our parents.
Wow.
That was the country we grew up in. And so when we see the corruption and things that are going on, you say, no, this is not my country. This is not my country. And that's what happens to what is happening to many of us. For those young ones, they've never seen that. So I can understand why they don't feel that way. But for those who've seen this country, what it is, I used to say, I owe this country more than I can ever pay back. If you went through school, free primary education, free secondary, free university, you got a job the week you started this thing, why wouldn't you be proud of your country?
True.
Why wouldn't you want to see that country? There are not people with two heads who did that at that time. Good governance, good leadership, that was the difference.
In your view, Prof, where did we make a wrong turn?
You know, these things came on us gradually. It wasn't a sudden thing. And when the decadence was growing, a lot of people kept quiet. Oh, it's okay, we can manage, you can this. And then gradually it festered and became what it is. To me, maybe people will say I'm wrong. I think the turning point for us came not too far after independence. The beginning of the coups in 1966 opened the door for what we have right now. That time there was order, there was discipline, people had respect for elders, all those kind of things. Then the military came. And we've seen some of the people we respect being mistreated by the military. And then little things like that. In the beginning, there was no respect for order, there was no respect for authority, there was no respect for decency. And then that was the beginning. But a lot kept quiet. Or were too afraid to talk because they had the gun and we had nothing,
Yeah.
So gradually it became, and then people say, oh, so this is the easy way to do it. And the country went there. And then it became, why are you complaining? When you get there, you will do the same thing. But that's not true for everybody. But then the majority accepted it was the easy way out.
Yeah.
And so then we're where we are today now.
So how do you think, in your own view, because you gracious enough to consider, look, you experience, a good country, the age differences between us is about like 20 years, and I didn't have that experience,
I know.
But even then, when I look at the experience that I have had, it wasn't this bad.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't this bad at all,
I said this was a gradual thing.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And it started building, and we kept quiet.
Exactly.
And it festered.
Yeah, so the point is, what do you think has to happen? How do we begin to correct this, in your view,
It starts with the individual. A good leadership in the days of the Awolowos and all of her made a difference. You have people to follow.
Yeah.
People talk about getting the followership and this thing. You need a good leader to follow. That's the first thing. But let me break it down to this. It starts with you and me and you as an individual. Where you are a leader. What are you doing there? The gate man who collects bribe from me to open the gate will do worse when he becomes minister. So that's the thing. So we need to begin to look at it. I think the family broke down in those days. There were certain things you dare not do in your family. I grew up in a hugely polygamous family, and children were all over the place. Well, we knew the order. When my father came in, he never carried the game away. He looked at you like this, you know what to do. Today is your son look at you, you're the one that run away. And that's the situation we're in now.
That's sad. So you're saying that, of course, there has to be a reorientation of mind. But at the same time, you are not also giving up on the idea of leadership, because, leadership is the one that sets the standard.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, in those days when you had people to look up to, they would tell you, be like that person. Who wants to be like any of the persons we have now today? That's the problem. We had people then and said, I want to be like that. You had a good lawyer in your village who did the right thing. Said, I want to be a lawyer. You see an engineer who does the thing. Today you are seeing them all do corrupting. I can't tell my grandchildren to be like them. So the leadership is important. But when you have that good leadership, then there's people to follow. But when there's no direction, everybody's doing what it is, then the followers go in the same direction, and that's what is happening to us.
Yeah, but there's also the counter view, the counterpoint that says that, even the leaders came out of among us, And I guess that goes back to what you also said, that look, individuals.
Yeah.
But there's a new, I think, crop of thinking that say, look, we as followers, I don't know whether you remember General Shola Williams.
Sure.
He's saying that, look, we as followers, we need to understand our obligation. What is the responsibility? What kind of leaders do we elect? How do we hold leaders accountable? So someone like him is leading a movement to say that, look, let us fix followership. What do you think?
Yeah, both, you have to handle both sides. It's not
one or the
leader
other
alone or follower alone. Like I said, it is important to have good leaders, and then you have examples to follow. And the thing about it doesn't mean that everybody will follow the example. People will say, like, it boils down to that individual. I heard of a politician who came around one day and said, he was interested in serving his people, but when he became a leader, they will come in and ask him if he puts 10,000. They said, it's too small. It will be his family. They will come and tell him the amount of money is money. I said, stop deceiving yourself. You wanted to be a thief yourself to start with. If at the beginning you're standing, there are opportunity for you. When people then force you to, you resign. But you go and do other things. You don't have to succumb to your needs of people.
If you
yourself, and that's why the individual becomes important. And it becomes the family. You remember you to say a village trains people.
Yeah.
In those days, in my own village, if I walk down the road and I did something wrong, somebody will correct me and go and report me back to my parents.
In fact,
and I get punished twice.
You are better advised to conduct yourself
exactly,
because you know.
Exactly. But today, we've seen examples of students being disciplined and the parents going to discipline the teacher. We've seen examples of that. That's where it boils down to the individual. If that child had come from a parent or a family that believes in order, when they discipline the child, he won't go back to go and discipline the staff. So we have a role to play. Yeah, you talk about followership, but then there's also that need.
Yeah.
What are you following?
Yeah.
What are you following? When a thief comes back and becomes a chief in my town, what am I following? What example am I being giving? When I open my TV and all I see is the thieves are the ones that are the news about them. People who do good things, nobody ever talks about them. Then, of course, you begin to see, for the fickle-minded, they didn't say, well, that's the way to do things. That's the way it is.
You can't beat them.
You can't beat them. You join them or something. But there's still a few, and not a few. There are a lot of Nigerians.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, who are honest people.
Clearly.
Right down there. And it's just that, again, like say, there's fear in many of us. A lot of us are not that courageous. That in spite of all the gragra that we make as Nigerians, we are basically cowards, I'm sorry to say. When it comes to tell the truth and face the reducing, we are not ready to do that. There are very few people. A minister appoints you to serve in this thing. You know what you give him a wrong advice. You don't want to give advice that is coming to what he says, or you're afraid that if you give him advice, he won't do it. And so what? Say it. And I always tell somebody, the father I'm appointed by minister to serve on something, the minister is acting on behalf of the people of Nigeria.
True.
It's not him I'm serving.
Yeah.
It's the people of Nigeria. So whether he likes what I'm saying or as long as the people of Nigeria likes it, that's my mandate. For the sake of Nigeria, not because of the minister appointed me.
True.
So these are the messages we need to have forward. And many of us, even educated people, we do worse than what they say. We make noise before we get to position of authority. You get there, you do worse than the ones that are there. It means basically inside of you, you are what you are. That's what you're showing up.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about some of the ideas of Iran reforms that that we have narratives all about. There are those who say that, okay, look, for instance, the former president Obasanjo says that we have to find some kind of indigenous, he said that he's not sure about Western democracy anymore. There are those who talk about restructuring, that, okay, look, maybe the presidential system is a waste to us. There are those who say that, look, let's have the federating units keep a lot of the responsibilities, move responsibilities away from the federal. What is your own idea of reform?
The reform is not all those fancy things they're talking about. The reform is the individual. Whether you create federating units, whether you create states or whatever, it's still individuals who will run them. And if those individuals don't have a reorientation in their mind, we're going to go through the same thing. We're only breaking down corruption into different places. Instead of federal corruption, we're now splitting into geopolitical corruption. That's what we're doing. Because the same people who are operating it will go on. If they don't have a change of attitude and mind.
Don't we need some kind of some borderlines, the things, the structure that we constrain our behavior, Prof? That's why I'm talking about the reform.
Yeah, you know, it is a matter of, you know, if there's no repercussion for what you are doing, you continue to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
Yes.
Go back. I mean, I started talking to the fact that if I mess up outside my house, the neighbor is going to put me into order. All that is gone. And we mentioned the guy who steals, who got the court says is in jail. 2 days later, he gets state pardon, as if he never did anything. We're all listening and seeing all that one. So you can go and steal if you're in the good position of the president, then you get state pardon and you never stole, according to state pardon. Those are the things that we're seeing. So that's why I'm saying you can create any structure. If the people themselves, and you don't put the rules and say if you offend, this is what you do. And I mean, we see it in other parts of the world. They give tickets to their leaders for if they violate this thing, but not here. In fact, you know, the man who dares to give a ticket to your leader, he probably going to end up in jail himself, you know. But these are the issues. So it boils down to that individual. And if a leadership comes up with this decision that, look, we want order, and he does order himself, then people will know we're serious. We're telling me to cut my coat at on my side, and you're buying a coat that is bigger than your own size. What type of thing is that? It's not possible.
Or a coat that you don't need.
Yeah, exactly. You know, exactly. So these are the issues that we're talking about. And it boils down to me and you and whoever is in charge in our own different places. And leadership, as I keep saying, is not at federally. There's leadership at every stage of life. In your house, you're a leader. If those individual little units are not taken care of, we congregate together to become what we have.
Right.
When family system has broken down, when there's no kind of leadership, no guidance, no building back on our tradition.
Right.
I'm not saying everything in our tradition is good. Great ones. But we abandoned everything. And so when we had no anchor. And so when the Western culture came, it swept us into the ocean. When the Eastern comes on, it sweeps us back into the jungle. And that's what is happening to us. When you are anchored, I look at countries like China, forget all their political decisions. It is the foundation of their culture that makes the difference in what they're doing. They were colonized like us at different stages of their life. India, they were colonized, but they had their problems. Yeah. I mean, all of us started Singapore. All those people, they started. But they had things, they were respected. They had character, you know, who they stuck to. And anybody messes up, you get dealt with. Here, it's not. And that's where we lost it.
So, and that's the point, Prof. So, who deals with, you know, who are the people that are in charge of, or institutions that are in charge of ensuring that there's no impunity? For instance, look at the problem of insecurity. So we all have a social contract, you know, and say that government, you know, you take care of our security. We have the police, we have the military, we have different agencies that are supposed to cater to our welfare. You know, so if we limit the conversation only to our individuals, and I agree with you entirely, but I'm making an argument that I want you to respond to that. So we have to. You have a grand narrative about the person, no doubt about that, and I agree. But to the extent that we all come together and say that we give these people the trust to govern us, to that extent is why many people think that we need to restructure a few things. We need to reform a few things. For instance, people believe that, okay, look, let's try state police now. You know, and all kinds of other reforms. And that's what I'm trying to get your take on.
We need reforms, no doubt about that. I mean, again, we started with parliamentary democracy, moved to presidential. Either of them were still stealing our money and looting this irrespective of whether one was just a little more. The presidential gives more opportunity to steal more, to loot more. So we're going down that system. at the back of each of those points is, sorry to keep coming back, is the individual.
I don't disagree. At the
back of each of those, whatever system you put in there, all of the businesses you will expect ASUU to be a good example of what Nigeria should be like.
Yeah.
We will see what is happening in ASUU.
Yeah.
There are human beings there. Yeah. Those are the things. So that we need to.
But probably, so what is going to happen? What must happen? How do you change individuals? I think that's the bottom line.
Okay. Unfortunately, I cannot accept. Some countries were lucky. They got a Messiah that came in and said, "Look, enough is enough. Enough is enough."
Yes.
I think we need one like that in this country. They say, "Look,
yes,
this nonsense has gone on for too long." But again, it requires for people to be able to sacrifice. You don't come into a system like this and want to change it overnight. It has to be something deliberate, something sustainable, something. I mean, the awareness, the education of the people. This is what you gain. Underdevelopment is so much more costly than development.
Sure.
And so let people realize, and that statement, what is in it for me? It's a legitimate question. What is in it for the average Nigerian if we have a good governance? We are not telling that kind of information as much as possible. What has happened? I mean, I came over and told you that the only thing that keeps me as a Nigerian is because of what I experienced when I was growing up. To the point I would say, I owe this country more than I can never pay back because of that experience.
Yeah.
We need to relay this kind of thing more to people. It is possible. For a person from a 39th child in a family to go to school and have free education all the way. It happened. I'm number 39 in my family in the list of surviving children. I was able to go to school free, go to everything. That it is possible. We need more of such information to go at people. And if we work together, if we get this thing, we will suffer. We will suffer initially. There's nothing that you struggle for that you don't have to pay for.
Yeah.
But the end result is what we should be looking at. Are we going to continue like this? Or do we need to move in that direction so that, all of us can have the benefits of what it is?
So, all right. So besides the government, there are also, society is also made up of different sectors of leadership. For instance, our religious leaders, our traditional institutions, they also play, especially the religious leaders, in trying to form, or reform the person, the individual, which is, the centerpiece of your own argument now, that is the person. How do you assess what is being taught, what is being preached in our mosque and in our churches, compared to what is happening in our society?
I will look back to a few years ago when I was still, the church held a meeting and it was titled Transforming the Society. And the big people came and said all of this, and I raised up my hand and said, how do you transform what has transformed you? And everyone was looking at me, and then I said, the society has already transformed the church. How can the church transform the society? That's the problem. That's the situation we have got to now.
But the church is supposed to transform.
Exactly. But what is happening in society that is not happening in our church? Even worse than what is happening there. So what are we talking about? What are we talking about? It wasn't that in the time of Jesus Christ, there were crazy people around, corrupt people. They were all over. But the point was that there was a followership. There was a leadership of all those people that followed Jesus Christ with all the things. Today, I'm not too sure we can say the same for many of our religious bodies. Because, like I said, you see the things they are doing, and you wonder whether is this religion or are these politicians? So back, unfortunately, back gets to the point where, when you reach the point in life, we said, is it me and my God, or is it me and my church? And because the churches, I'm sorry to say, have failed us, whether we like it or not. The churches have been overtaken by the society. Let me give you one little good example. A politician comes to your church, to your conference, or whatever. You introduce him. You don't have to tell him to go and take the pulpit and talk. What's he going to talk? What's the politician going to say? It's okay enough that he comes, you open the door for everybody to come in.
Yeah.
But you don't give them the position of taking over your pulpit. If the church leader goes to the Aso Rock, will you be giving the podium with the presidential this on? No. Keep everybody in their place. Thank you for coming. Say the word of God to them. But don't leave them up to go to your pulpit and go and start talking to you. What are they talking about? So that's why it is difficult to see where is the church, where is the society. We need to get back to basics, those basics of life, and then so that we can distinguish the church from the society, But now I don't see it's the same. It's the church and society, society and church, all the same type of thing,
Well, I mean, just before we round up and go to something else, I just want to make an observation, and then I'll let you also respond to it. So I think that, a lot of our institutions, are failed.
Yeah.
But it's and for the most part, and like you've talked about it too, for the most part, it's because of impunity. There are no consequences.
Yes.
So those that are meant to be the ones to impose consequences, like you said, some of them are even compromised.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
So we have to deal with the problem of corruption, and it seems that corruption is everywhere.
Yeah.
There is insecurity. So when you now have all these kind of crises everywhere, in my view, the individual is important, but you must get a group of people who will who will pick up the gauntlet and say, look, we got to fix this. And that is where the idea of an elite consensus, comes in. When we look at the history of Western countries, there was a point when there was what they call the enlightened self-interest, which was the time when people now started saying that, look, okay, I have power today, I have influence today, but tomorrow I'm displaced, I have no influence, I have no power, my opponents, my enemies are now, and then they come up with the idea of a rule of law. Say that, whether I have influence or I'm out of influence, all of us will be governed by the rule of law. So the elite said that, look, let us reduce everything. That, look, whatever happens, we must have the rule of law. And there are other benchmarks, So one of the things that I advocate for is that elite consensus, that people must rise up regardless of our political differences, regardless of our religious differences, regardless of our ethnic differences, to say that, look, these are the minimum that we must have in this society in order for us to redirect ourselves.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Unfortunately, Nigerian elite is littered with corruption, and that's the problem. And until we sort ourselves out, until we come. I'm looking at a situation, sorry to be personal. The EFCC government says somebody has committed offense. The government of the state says, I have not lost any money. You begin to see that discrepancy between, so which are we to believe? These are issues that we're talking about. At what point? At what point do we continue to allow corruption to continue because it favors us? And at that point, we allow even the so-called authorities and the EFCCs and the ICPC and all that, they're supposed to put this in it. They're so overwhelmed by all sorts of influence from different sides that making encumbering their activities to do that. But at the same time, I'm looking at a good thing that happened. Say what you like about Burkina Faso, Mali, is what the other one, the three that are breaking away from America. Changes are taking place in there. It starts with an individual that woke up and said enough is enough.
But those are military rules.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't.
I see your point.
Yeah, I don't enjoy. Sometimes in my wish, I wish that we had somebody. Unfortunately, just that dictators end up becoming what it is.
Yeah.
But it's not. You don't have to be a dictator. See, people coming to say this is the right thing to do, doing it themselves.
Yeah.
So they see their life. And a lot of us are probably scared to go public because we have the skeleton in our bug that we want to cover. That's the thing. And that's why we don't come out openly as we see. That's why I said the elite is already littered with corruption, cupboards of corruption. That's where the problem is. But we still have to. I mean, there's no human being that is perfect.
Right.
There's still flaws. That's why we're human beings.
Yeah.
But we should forget all those flaws and move forward. And this is for the betterment of all of us. This is what we need to do.
Right.
Stand up for what is right and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, and certainly, there are, I agree with you that there is a lot of corruption even among the elites, a lot, And one of my guests recently, Mr. Farotimi, says that he says to me that that when I asked him the same question, he said I should forget it, that we don't even have an elite. But of course, we all agree that look, there are still, it's just like the story of Elijah, who says to God that look, I'm the only one. God say, shut up, man.
700,000 more.
There are still in this country, so it's just a question of giving them a voice and organizing them.
They have to seize the voice. They're not going to get a voice. The environment will not give them any voice. You have to be loud and say it outside. We need a few more of those people to say it out and say, this is where we need to go. You can't hide between, you won't get it on a platter of gold. Like I keep talking about equity. You don't beg for equity. You fight for equity with what you have. All this pleading that Africans are doing, begging for equity. You fight for it. These are the issues.
I agree entirely. Well, let's talk about your area of expertise. Quite a lot of issues that I'd like to take. For instance, the question of Nigeria being able to produce vaccine. So I've had two former health ministers on this show. And one of them, Professor Onyebuchi, said that when he was minister, that there was an attempt to build one big vaccine making factory in Lagos, But he left in 2014, and I don't think it has advanced. I know that you are also in this area. So the question is, at what point are we going to be able to produce some of these vaccines ourselves? I mean, is it a desirable objective?
It is a desirable objective. We've done it before, and we need to do it. In spite of what Bill Gates said that we should make it a priority, it is our priority. We need to put it. And the problem is not this. What is killing it is when self-interest overrides national interest. That would have been responsible. So let's not deceive ourselves. We've been at this since 2005, in the time of Lambo.
Yes.
2 years after, they dissolved the board. For 10 years, nothing was done. And then we started in 2017, and we are on it again. And each step, what's supposed to be a dash, 100-meter dash, has been turned into a marathon race of obstacles.
Please tell us, Prof, what is happening?
God save Nigeria. You see, we know what to do. But each time you say, we want to do this, it involves money. Somebody wants to dip their dirty fingers into the money we used to develop it. That's all. Simple, and let me be frank and say it. The money is there. We have the resources. We have the resources in this country. We can raise the money for our vaccine production in this country. With the money we're wasting, 1/10 of that will be wasting. But that's not even the point. Even if we take legitimate money, we have the money. But somewhere along the line, there are people who are waiting to take their own bit out of that money for their own pocket, not for the sake of the country. That is the problem.
The problem. So where does the matter stand now?
I'm praying now. I mean, we have a new minister now who's come up and is moving on with Murphy and a few others. We're working, and it's slow. We lost years. And for us, it should have happened 10 years ago. But we keep on. And I'm glad that the new minister is working on it. We are working with the group of the Ministry of Finance Incorporated.
Right. Yeah.
We're all getting together. But for people like me at my age, it's too slow.
Exactly.
I don't know where I will go. But we need to get it done as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
But we wasted enough time. But I think this time, I'm seeing the light on the way now with the new minister that we can get something done for the sake of this country.
Hopefully. Well, both of them, Dr. Kwate and Dr. Alausa, they come with a lot of credentials. All right. So what about So let's talk about the infectious diseases. Our capacity as a nation to deal with these things: Lassa fever, COVID. We've dealt with Ebola, and I think we are still struggling with cholera. So what is going on? Why are we not able, for instance, to beat down cholera?
We are not sustaining the capacity we have. We're not sustaining our experience. Nigeria has relevant experience in disease control. One very good, shiny example was Ebola in 2014.
Yeah, yeah.
It came into the country, the whole world thought that was the end of the world.
Yeah.
Within 3 months, this same country, what did we do? We kept it to 20 cases, about 11 or 8 deaths, I can't remember. That is it. Without any vaccine, without anything. What did we do? Community engagement, improve surveillance. Because when you detect it early, you catch the case, you isolate the case, you put it and limit it, you don't spread it. Our ancestors were practicing all those things before. Smallpox, pollution, all those things. So we did that without all those because the government got the people aware, the community aware, and everybody worked together. That's all we need. But we're not putting money into surveillance now. We have abandoned even that what made us what good we are.
Wow.
And we're focusing on vaccine that you said, we can't even produce locally. We're now begging the world for vaccine when we all have the resources to do the good things by good surveillance. When I was growing up in my early days at the University of Ibadan, each state had a good epi division. Supplied with the vehicles that they need to go and investigate. When the labs provided them support by doing diagnosis, although our diagnosis was taking like 4 weeks in those days, things have improved now.
Exactly.
Things have improved much now.
Right.
So all that have been abandoned. I visited a state a few years ago in which the Commissioner for Health was begging me to go and tell his governor to give him a vehicle. And I said, but he appointed you. Why are you begging me to go? And of course, I don't shy away from such things. We went to see the governor, and the first thing I noticed was that the governors of there were 6, 7, 8 cars, new cars on there. I saw the governor. I said, Governor, as I was coming, I saw this car. Your IP division has even doesn't have a bicycle. Give them one of the cars now. These are the issues. I don't want to get personal.
Did the governor do it?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure he did. He probably had no idea what he wanted to do. But those are the things I'm talking about. States have strong epi division. Now what have we done? We concentrated everything on NCDC. We have started a National Center for Disease Control. And I'm saying they should do National Center for Disease Coordination. Give the states the right to do, because that's where the cases are occurring. Discover it there before, so the NCDC won't be running helter-skelter all over the states, like decapitated chicken to solve the problem. Equip our states, get the local governments to be involved in this thing, providing the money. How much money is it for surveillance compared to the money we use in controlling epidemics?
But Prof, so you already hinted at it. The attitude of the governors themselves. Why? Must the governors wait for the federal government for them to have their local epi, you call it epi,
division,
epidemiology, which is like a small SCDC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what stops the governors from doing it in their own states?
Stupidity and lack of interest in their people. Simple. They don't care about the people they are governing. They're not there because of the people. They are there because of themselves.
This is the problem.
Yeah, that's it. Unfortunately, it's us that elect them, and then they get there, they abandon us. It's time for us to make up our mind, just like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We elect you, you're not coming back the next time. But instead, it's the bad ones that get more votes at the next election. So it backs to us. It back to us.
Back to us. Very true. Very true. So still on your area of expertise. So I had always wanted to ask this question, when we had the COVID in 2020, we shut down the country for I think almost 3 months. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, and you being an expert, Prof, did we really have to do that?
No. You see, first of all, when COVID came, ignorant people like the Melinda Gates and others said when this thing comes, everybody was going to die in Africa, dead body on the road. Everybody at that time was speaking out of ignorance. Unfortunately, because nobody knew anything about COVID, whether you're in Europe or you're in Africa. Unfortunately, we are so subsumed in Africa that if Europe doesn't tell us, if WHO doesn't tell us, they won't do anything. Yeah, we have the data to prove. We suggested to our people, analyze your own data. When COVID came, it was said people were going to die. Of course, they were dying in Europe. But there was a reason why they were dying. The disease, the what you call comorbidities, the people with diabetes, all those elderly people at that time, they had more elderly people. So we're dying. Here, there were young people, the majority of our people are young, they took the COVID in their stride. It wasn't that they weren't getting COVID, but they were still spreading it. I mean, we have evidence that COVID was spreading, but we're not dying. And then we misinterpreted that to mean, they said we're going to die. If we didn't die, then there's no COVID. That was the wrong interpretation. So this was the problem. COVID was there. And all of the things we waited for WHO, if we had analyzed our own data, we would have been in a position to say that, where do people congregate? Where? It's not in the market where it is open as this thing. They congregate in churches. They congregate in the slums, in the different homes where we have 2 by 2, face me, I face you. Those are where you congregate. Those are where we should have focused our attention.
That's where we have the mass of our people.
Exactly. That's where we should have focused our attention, not on the market, not on the whatever, all those kind of things. The churches, the way we're congregating on those, just say the place. So we'd have identified where were these diseases spreading. It wasn't that we didn't advise government. But government has a way of sorting its own self if it doesn't suit their own. And sometimes I think some of our African governments are so scared about going against WHO, even when you have evidence that what WHO is doing is bullshit. you know.
And you can say that, bro, because
I've been there and worked with them, so I know what I'm talking about. What are they saying? Sorry to be where this thing. At the point, the COVID, the monkeypox public health emergency that was declared was not because of Africa. Go and check it. It was discovered because it was happening in Europe. In fact, if you remember, the WHO director, the committee that was set up on 2 occasions actually decided not to declare it a COVID. I mean, not to declare a fake until he came in and overruled when at that time. So it wasn't because of Africa. You've been with us for the last 50 years, you didn't declare fake. So it was because of what was in Europe. And they stopped it, lifted it when it stopped in Europe. Then the thing came to Africa and came back with viciousness on Africa. When we are seeing it's only the first time now, this second COVID, we are declaring it for Africa. The one before had nothing to do with us. It was for them. Wow. That was then I told the story. I said, when I saw what happened, sometimes I used to think WHO stands for World Health Organization. Now I know it stands for White Health Organization.
Oh, wow.
No, we need to be careful and tell the story as it is. Let's not deceive ourselves.
It's very, significant and important for voices like yours, because like I said, your reputation precedes you. One just has to look at your credentials, and I'm happy that we still have people like you who can speak straight and very forthright on some of these issues. Because when other people say it, we don't pay attention to it. But when you say it, we believe that you know what they're saying. And that's why I thought I should ask you that question that, because most of our people are living from hand to mouth. They are daily earners.
Certainly.
It will seem that we have not actually recovered from those shutdowns, of 2020.
It was not COVID that destroyed our economy. We destroyed our economy ourselves with the rules we gave. Like you mentioned, 1 day of people, when I don't know any percentage of our people are daily workers. When you take them, they cannot work a day. You affect so many things. We should have thought of all those things when we're giving. And like I said, it wasn't that government was not giving advice. But unfortunately, because we are receiving so much donation from all these foreign people, we accept whatever it is they tell us. Yeah, that's it.
Well, because of our time, last question, wanted to comment on the state of the nation. How do you assess the current administration? They've been there now for 16 months. How do you assess the president? How is he managing the economy and the issue of insecurity, in your own view?
First, they told us that we should wait, that things will be better. It's a bit difficult to see things getting better, with what is going on. Again, like I said, hope should be the last thing to die in us. So let's keep hoping in this government. But in terms of what we are seeing, one is not satisfied. Well, you may turn around and say, we have damaged the country all these years. For him to come in within a year or two and change it, it's not possible. But then we should see the signs that things are going the right direction. And what I mean by that, if you tell me, I use that word, if you tell me, cut your coat according to your size, you don't go and buy extra coats for yourself. Those are issues we need to look at. And that's
even when you can personally afford it.
Yeah, I mean,
as a symbol.
If you're using your money, I have no argument about that. You use the money that belongs to all of us.
Yeah.
That's a different story. Don't tell me all those stories about, I can afford it, I can afford it. I think it's,
very true, very true.
Whose money are you using to do what, particularly when you're telling those people that, cut your coat yourself, or tighten your belt. That kind of thing. So you need, that's where the example of leadership comes in. It must be seen, just like justice.
Yeah.
Justice must be done, but also be seen to be done. We are seeing tightening, we are hearing about tightening, but we're not seeing it. That's the problem.
I hope that he succeeds because,
that's my prayer.
Another 4 years down the drain.
No, we can't. We can't afford that. It will be a final burial of Nigeria,
Hopefully we get it right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof. It has been a very insightful conversation with you. And thank you for your service, to the country in your area of expertise. Thank you for the knowledge that you impact, you won the Nigerian National Order of Merit in 2002, so I'm sure that the country appreciates you, and we appreciate you, and thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail, and that's why we are here. We will not relent until Nigeria does prevail. Thank you for watching. My name is Laolu Akonde, and by the grace of God, I'll see you next edition.